All right. Welcome to this session. And today we will be talking about harnessing the power of the 80/20 principle to unlock growth in your startup. So, basically, a little bit about myself. I'm Zion Thompson, co founder of Startup Launch Code, um, a growth studio for early stage companies that are looking to scale. And here's what we will be covering today. First, what is the 80/20 principle? Then we'll cover use cases of the 80/20 principles for startups and the pros and cons of the 80/20 principle. We'll cover a case study on the 80/20 principle and how to apply it in your startup. All right. So, first question, I love starting with this. What is the 80/20 principle? Everybody talks about it, and it's a really, really good concept. But I think understanding what it is very, very important. So that being said, I just give a little history. So the 80/20 principle basically is also known as Pareto principle, and it was discovered by the Italian economics Vilfredo Pareto in 1906. And what is really interesting that brought it about was that Pareto discovered that 80% of the land in Italy was owned by 20% of the people. And also, 20% of the people held 80% of the total wealth in Italy. And that, you know, brought about a kind of like very different way of thinking. And to point out here, the how it can be executed is critically looking at output outcome, right? And what are the levers do you need to focus on within your startup to drive that growth? And over the years, I mean, it has come to be known by many, many names. The 80/20 principle, which is what I'm covering today, it's also known as the power law distribution and the law of the vital few, and also the principle of factor sparsity. So, at the end of the day, what it's really saying is if you started a business and you look into it, you're going to find the 80/20 principle. If you look at any nation, you'll find the 80/20 principle at work. Like on an average, you will see this principle at work. And it's all about how to channel it to your advantage. And to summarize it in a nutshell, it's basically is 80% of the outcome of any activity. I mean, any activity just comes from 20% of the effort. And I still look at it from there was a I think Rockefeller made this statement. I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than have 100% of mine. So once you understand what is the objective, what is the goal you're trying to accomplish, then begin to now look at what are activities that need to be done. Then begin to critically analyze what kind of activities and which one is yielding the maximum, impact. Then you can now course correct and know where exactly to focus a lot of your energy, a lot of your attention, your focus to actually achieve what you want to achieve. That being said, we want to also focus on like use cases of the 80/20 principle because I think that is also very, very important. First is looking at just in your startup, look at your employees, right? Every now and then, startups raise a lot of funds to scale it, things like that. But very few really take time to critically analyze, you know, where is all of that traction coming from. Now, what this means is that you'll find out that 20% of your employees drive 80% of your output. It sounds ridiculous, but um, you want to actually look into this because this is true. 20% of your employees are actually critical to the in terms of like revenue growth, the critical activities that actually move the needle. And this is also where you can actually the metrics like average revenue per employee, ARPU. So you want to look into your business with that kind of like strategic, thinking, and look at what needs to be done to even increase output. Product development as well, product designers and every single startup that is doing it. It means that 20% of the product features are actually used by 80% of the users. So you find every now and then, startups are, trying to like roll out new features and so many things. But at the end of the day, you begin to ask yourself the questions: actually, what features are really used by the customers, and what category of customers are using which feature? And this just opens a whole new a whole new brings a whole new like insight into how what you're doing and what you should be doing. And it also empowers you to engineer the kind of like growth that you're looking for in your business. That is, if you look at it from a customer support standpoint, it means that 20% of your customers account for 80% of the complaints. It's quite hilarious, but yet again, it's not too far from the truth. So if from a customer support standpoint, you want to actually look at what kind of like complaints are being logged in, and what kind of customers are making these complaints, and to now maximize the effort and even time. What it could also mean is you looking at maybe creating like FAQs to avoid like having to engage many of the support agents on your team. So I've looked at many of the companies will look out that are offering a service. Before you actually get through to maybe reach to speak to someone live, you probably have seen so many FAQs already built around that problem. And it's that same logic that influences many of all these things. What kind of problems are a user, will a user tend to solve? Because at the end of the day, you want a user to be empowered enough to solve their own problems. That saves you time. It also saves you resource. And by so doing, you are able to even increase customer experience. So that's one scenario. It's the next is sales too, and this is quite interesting because it's nobody actually is beyond this. 20% of your accounts kind of deals that you're bringing in will bring 80% of the sales. Likewise, you can look at it like 20. A whole lot of the revenue is going to be coming from like 80% of the revenue will be coming from 20% of the accounts you have, and this is where it's definitely very, very interesting for every business. So it also makes you look at what type of customers are actually bringing the most yield, and where should you focus a lot of your energy, and not just like spread it evenly across the board. Which, yeah, it's it may look like it's not balanced, but this is the secret to actually improving efficiency and productivity within your business. Also, you see the same thing with sales. 20% of your marketing activities would your campaigns will lead to 80% of the leads you generated, right? So the same thing you'll find it, and it cascades down to even when you close the sale, and even the ultimately the revenue that they are all bringing. So at the end of the day, these things are already existing in your business, right? They're already existing. You will find it's about 80% of every output is coming from like 20% of the effort. So as a founder, what you want to do is to focus, like critically focus on what you need to be doing. You know, what should you um what should you bring to the surface in terms of like what you're going for, and what and how to go about it. So I want to also touch on a case study on the 80/20 principle, because Um, Speaking about it from a business standpoint, I think one of the interesting things about the 80/20 principle is just the strategic thinking you bring to everything you're doing. While everybody is acting from a tactical standpoint, you're more strategic. You're more you know what levers to turn across different departments: sales, marketing, customer support, product design. You know what you should be focusing on and what you should not even think about. And one good case is Amazon. Great company. I mean, one of the most valuable companies in the world, founded by Jeff Bezos. I mean, we all know the story. Amazon started as a book company, but it has evolved to like a, a very big online store, even AWS. But let's take a deep look into the 80/20 principle and how Amazon like really leverages it, right? So in 2005, Amazon launched the Amazon Prime, right? And the Amazon Prime basically is where users subscribe for on a yearly or monthly basis for to buy stuff on Amazon and have free shipping delivered to them. The core feature on that is free shipping. There's really nothing. The whole focus is just offering shipping to these customers that are paying, for that are buying, stuff on Amazon. Now, from when Amazon started back in 1994, 1995, thereabout, till then, enough data was collected and finding out that how do you know the kind of customers, the ability of each customers to even spend much more? And as at the time when it rolled out Prime, the whole idea was to reach the 80% that the revenue is actually the 80% output generated by the 20% of the customer base. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is like about 80% of Amazon's revenue is going to be coming from about 20% of the customers that they have. So how do you even now improve that? So that is just the secret formula. So Amazon critically looked at that and identified that there probably is there are customers that can even pay so much more and are currently doing so much more that we can even get so much money back from them based on how much you're spending. So let's look at it. Look at this chart. Um, as you can see already, um, non-prime customers are the ones that are actually spending more when it comes to low ticket items. Less than $100 items, you find out like 34% of that purchase is coming from non-prime customers. You also find between sales between 100 to 500, that still rocks for the non-prime members. 46% that you also find 500 to $1,000 purchase. Then you begin to see prime climbing. We have 24% of high purchase coming from 500 to $1,000 coming from prime customers. You also find from the range of 100 and 1,000 to $2,000 prime customers are the ones buying that. 2,000 to 4,000, 10% of that is prime customers. 4,000 to $6,000, 7% of that prime customers. So across the board, what they Amazon realizes the average spend for a prime customer is so much more than non-prime customers. Now, this now lets you know, in other words, where's the money at? Where is the revenue really coming from? What category, what type of customer is it coming from? And what is the ability to even do so much more? And this just brought about that insight. And Amazon turned it to Amazon Prime, which is, you know, a huge revenue booster in the business. So if you bring it down to even looking at what you currently are doing in your own startup, one of the things you actually are on this you need to understand is what type of customers are interacting, what is the purchasing power, and can they do more, and begin to see identify how to even increase revenue from a strategic standpoint based on the problems that is being solved and the type of customer that wants that problem solved, right? So if you want to even look at Amazon's revenue stream, this is from even 2019. Now, we'll find that 5% comes from ads on Amazon. AWS accounts for 12.5%. Of course, this has gone up. But now look at the Prime. Prime is where it's just the subscription alone, which is attached to the online store, which the online store accounts for 50.4%. Like over 50% of Amazon's revenue is coming from the Amazon store, people buying stuff. And within that category, Amazon just generates 6.8 billion, sorry, 19.2 billion just from Prime subscription. People that just paying for the subscription itself, outside of even the purchase. So what we're actually trying to see is that the subscription side is the Amazon Prime is a huge driver of even their store traffic and the purchase happening right there. And what this lets you also understand is how much a simple insight, strategic insight from the 80/20 principle can just unlock a whole new different dimension of growth for your business. Just understanding where is the money coming from and who are the customers that we are serving and what activities is coming where are these coming from. If we're critically looking at where the Amazon's purchase, we're finding that almost 70% of their sales is coming from US alone. So you'll still find like those disparities. What countries are actually bringing the most money for us? So it's very, very 80/20 principle is very outcome oriented, right? In terms of what you should you be doing and what should you not be doing, no matter how great you think you are at that. You need to stop doing that. So this gives an insight. This is like Amazon's revenue growth. As you can see from 1997 when they started, you see that slow climb. But from 2005 when Amazon launched the Amazon Prime, you can see that rocket climb of how their revenue just takes an uphill climb. And this goes to tell you how much or how powerful the understanding the 80/20 principle is and how you can unlock it in your business. And that being said, now coming to you as a founder, I know you the most important thing, how do you bring to 80/20 principle into your game plan, from a very strategic standpoint, and how do you now, you know, look at it from a different whole new different perspective and leverage it to your startup's advantage. First way to do it is to focus on strategy. There are going to be times honestly that you will want to um, just attack it from very very tactical standpoint. We've just raised XYZ amount of money and we need to employ staff. But first, what are the levers within your business that you need to tweak that will give you maximum outcome? And so we find out like there are many startups that would probably raise a lot of money and they they go on to hire so many people, then later on they have to lay those people off. And you kind of like have to ask the question, like, what was the thought process behind doing that in the first place? And what was the rationale for doing that? And that's many of those things are just tactical moves. But when we come from a very strategic standpoint, we begin to see if we leave what are the fixed activities and what are the variables. So you always want to identify the fixed, which is you don't even need to touch it. The output is already good. The only time you want to take it to the next level when you want to scale it. So As a founder, the first thing is you need to be strategic in your thinking and approach to how you're looking at your business and how it works. Secondly, delegate. You need to stop doing specific things, not because they are not like great things, but because it's not the best use of time, resource, and it would also not leave yield the maximum output. And this is even a challenge that even me myself have struggled with delegating, learning how to delegate. Not because you are not good at it, but because it's just not good of like I said, time, resource, or energy. And so when you realize that you can unlock a whole new different level of dimension in your business by simply delegating activities out, then it changes the way you actually are running your startup. It just changes the way you even give your offering, you bring your offering to the table, and your customers would perceive that change, that transition, and will also even love the kind of product or service and the experience that comes with engaging you as a startup. It also, thirdly, is it helps you just focus on what matters. No doubt there are going to be 1,001, even a million, gazillion things that you might think you need to do. But remember, 80% of that is just going to come from 20% of effort. So the first thing you need to do is identify the 20%. That may be easy, that may be hard, but from a long-term standpoint, that is the best thing you are going to do as a business. Focus on what matters. Every other thing, delegate it. Don't even think about it. So, having given you the benefits, the importance of the 80-20 principle, I just want to also drill down to the pros and the cons of actually the 80-20 principle because it's also good to mention some of these things. And here are the pros and the cons. First, the pro, it just gives perspective on how to grow the company, right? Which is where, I mean, management consulting, even what we do at Startup Launch Code, we want to know where is the needle, how do we move the needle? And what are the key activities that is needed to move the needle? Sometimes it's marketing, sometimes it may be operations. It just might be even a mindset shift too. And it just gives a different perspective. Now, the con of that is it can leave some employees or customers feeling left behind. So let's say in the case of Amazon, definitely with Amazon Prime, Amazon knowing that Prime customers are bringing in the majority of the money, a lot of the perk services would tend to be tailored to those specific customers. And the others may not get so much, and it could look like it could look discriminatory, but that's just the con of it. Now, the next pro of that is it allows you to focus on the important things. Like I said, there's going to be so many things that could actually give you a headache if you want to, tackle it. But your job as the founder, as a CEO, or as the executive within your startup is to just sit on what really matters and just stop doing dumb stuff. Not because they are not you, it's just not what your time. Your time is more important you know. And now the con of that is it now requires a designing eye because there will be certain activities that you'd you would critically need to evaluate because not everything exists within your company as a standalone. It's all connected. So you want to also have the best foot forward in terms of like um even if you want to delegate, you want to be sure that the task that is needed to delegate would at least get done, even if not 100%, but at least well over 50%. And then you can now begin to upgrade. By then, you've maximized resources. Now, the pro of it is it just creates a framework for rewarding loyal customers and employees, right? Now I mentioned like for pros and cons, you'll find that one of the cons of it is leaving employees behind. You find that certain employees, their tasks are just like just there, but the real activities that yield, you know, revenue or outcome for the business, those employees tend to even get paid much more than those that aren't. So the good thing about this is like it just gives a framework for who you should be rewarding, how you should reward them, and how everything else should work. So it provides a framework for rewarding customers and employees. And the con of that is it might negatively skew your idea of what drives value. So everything is based on value. You're offering value to the marketplace. Your customer that you're serving understands what value is, and so um, focusing on what's really important in terms of outcome also shifts what you actually think is valuable from an internal standpoint and also from an external standpoint, right? So it requires like I said, a very very strategic and also a very insightful way of looking at you know what is valuable, so you don't tip the scale and just because of outcome, you know every other thing doesn't count. So you have to really evaluate, the concept of value, and also find a balance, even though you understand that uh, 80% of whatever outcome is going to come from 20% of activities. There has to be some form of values that guides those that process. Now, in terms of applying the 80/20 principle, I've touched on it a bit, but I'm just going to simplify it in very, very simple terms that you can actually take go with. And this is what I would call the Eisenhower Matrix. Do, decide, delegate, delete. And this is where the it's um, the strategic thinking starts from in terms of like adopting the 80/20 principle. The first thing we want to know is evaluating everything across the board. What are the most important things that need to be done? Then also the urgent and important things. Are they urgent or are they not urgent? If they're urgent and they're important, then it gets done. What are the important things but not urgent that need to be done? So you now have to decide when you want to do it. So it just brings a whole new dimension in terms of like what you should be doing and how you should be doing it and when you should be doing it, which is important. Then the delegate side now begins to look at what are the not important things but are also urgent, and that those are the things that you want to delegate to other people. And the last but not the least is what are the things that you just need to stop doing. They're not urgent and they're not important, and you just need to stop doing them. Now I have a couple of examples. Now depending on where you are, spending time on social media, personal phone calls, how long should that be? So all of this is Eisenhower. All of this needs to critically be looked at based on the outcomes, the goal you want to achieve. So you want to hit a $1 million revenue by the end of the year. You now critically needs to look at what are the things that need to be done. What roles, what roles and people within the organization are going to be needed in this in making that happen, and then what are the tasks and the activities that have great priority to achieving that. So you'll find out that some things may look important but they're not important, they can be delegated. As a founder you can delegate it, and you need to find also the team players, the people on your team that are really good, that that you can delegate specific tasks to, and what task really should be delegated to your best key players. You don't want your best players doing things that that anybody else can do, and this just brings a whole new different way of driving growth within your business. And as simply as simple as this looks, it's going to really require you to also step back and critically also at look into your business, Identify what you want to be doing and who you want to be doing what in view of the outcome you are trying to achieve, the objective, the goal that you have. This is just the fundamental of adopting the 80/20 principle. And it will also require you also looking into your revenue streams. Where are the customers that are buying the most? Who, I mean, what are the products that that are bought the most? Like really like analyzing all those different things and then making strategic taking strategic actions to actually engineer growth, just like Amazon did with launching the Amazon Prime. You can't think of such great ideas if you're too focused on we need to roll out more features. No, it has to be guided by data, strategic insight, and that's what guides what kind of strategy you're going to deploy in your startup. So 80/20 principle, do not forget 80 to 80% of the outcome you want will be coming from 20% of the activity. Find the 20% at all costs and delegate every other thing and just go for what really matters. So, look forward to another time on this webinar series.